Kavod Harabonim, consul generals, dignitaries, MPs, members of government, Safi, our Christian Zionist friends, friends of our community. On the 7th of October 2023, the world watched as the worst atrocities known to mankind were perpetrated by Hamas jihadists who murdered innocent men, women, and babies for the simple fact that they were Jewish, and then went on to joyfully, intentionally, and proudly boast this to the world. As a Jewish community, we are shocked, horrified, and traumatized, and we will be mourning this for the rest of our lives. In 1973, Yom Kippur was taken away from us. In 2023, the same for Simchat Torah, and we wept on what is supposed to be the most joyous day in our calendar. And in the many years to come, the families of over 1,500 murdered people will be saying Kaddish, our memorial prayer, every Simchat Torah. But out of the depths of our collective trauma and grief comes a fundamental shift in our Jewish psyche, that we have a Jewish state. And as Jewish people, there has never been a more poignant time in history when we can say never, never, and never again to evil and to terrorism, where we can stand as Am Echad, one nation, firmly behind the state of Israel and our people in their time of need. When Israeli civilians, our fellow Jews, some of them family and friends, were targeted last week in a horrific massacre, hunted down in their homes at a music festival for peace, women raped, babies beheaded, we, as a South African Jewish community, witnessed the greatest tragedy to befall our people since the Holocaust. As South African citizens, as citizens of this country, we expected a word of consolation for our grief and trauma from our democratically elected president, and we got nothing. We waited for a word of condemnation against the heinous slaughter of Jewish lives, and not a modicum of compassion or empathy. President Ramaphosa's response to the massacre and slaughter of our people has crossed a line of common humanity and decency, and our community is reeling in hurt, anger, and disbelief. We have watched in the global media as ruling political leadership in country after country throughout the world has stood behind their Jewish communities with messages of comfort, solidarity, and reassurance. We are reminded, as David said earlier, of Martin Luther King's quote, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemy, but the silence of our friends." As South African citizens, however, we are part of a constitutional democracy which is independent of any ruling party. We may feel hurt and rejected by the ruling political party, but we never have to feel afraid to stand up and defend our constitutional democratic rights. As proud South African citizens of a constitutional democracy, with minority rights enshrined therein, we have the responsibility, morality, and inalienable right of freedom of expression and association. So we, the Jewish people of South Africa, call on our government to exercise its obligation to protect these rights. We have also received an outpouring of messages, calls, and statements from political parties, from consulates, embassies, members of parliament, government officials, interfaith leaders, and friends of our community. We value and we appreciate each and every one of these messages. We have incredible support from our state security, our City of Cape Town, SAPS, law enforcement, Metro Police, who have kept us safe at protests, who have safeguarded our schools at times of threat, and who just yesterday responded within the hour to take down offensive anti-Semitic graffiti. It is deeply, deeply appreciated, and we work in tandem to make the Western Cape a city for all. As the crisis unfolds, we need to take a deep breath and realize that as proud Jews and Zionists across a diverse spectrum of opinion, thought, expression, and experience, the road ahead may be long and uncertain, but it is in difficult times like this that we require courageous, yet calm and measured leadership. We are working around the clock across organizations to address the political situation and the hostility that we find ourselves in the strongest and most collaborative way. Organizations of first response in this crisis are the Cape South African Jewish Board of Deputies. We are working relentlessly in the political and government space to uphold and protect our civil rights, to practice our Judaism in a safe environment, free from discrimination and hatred. The South African Zionist Federation Cape Council, who are keeping us connected with our beloved Eretz in her time of need. Soldiers who are advocating for our students on campus in the most difficult of spaces. And the CSO, who are safeguarding Jewish lives and the Jewish way of life. And I would like to pause and say a very grateful thank you to the CSO team of volunteers for the massive work you are doing. We deeply appreciate it. We are blessed with inspired spiritual leadership, our rabbis across the wide spectrum of our community who have remained steadfast. We thank you for your spiritual guidance, your insight and wisdom, and for keeping us connected. Together with our schools, can we have a clap for the Rabbonim? Thank you. Together with our schools, our funding and welfare organizations, we make up a rich, warm, vibrant, and multifaceted kaleidoscope of a community. Right now, we are going through a very difficult and traumatic time. And if we look at the work of Viktor Frankl, leading psychology theorist and Holocaust survivor, who said that pain and trauma does not need to lead to more pain and more trauma and PTSD. That's post-traumatic stress disorder. Rather, we find meaning by coming together, and we will find courage from our shared community. Our community is united as we pull together and draw strength from each other, and we will make sure that we come out of this not just intact, but stronger. Our Jewish values uphold the sanctity of life, and together we mourn the lives lost in this humanitarian disaster. And in the words of our blessing for Israel, Avinu shebashamayim, Sur Yisrael v'goalo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Slichat Geulateinu.